speak. I probably started out here at Stony Brook like 16, 17 years ago, even though I don't look that old, with Ronnie Rosen at the SBDC, where I was teaching people how to optimize their website. And they didn't pay me, and I wasn't charging, but I got the experience. And not to get ahead of ourselves, but if I didn't speak for free at Newsday in November of '06, one of the people in the room approached me afterwards and said, "Do you want to sell your company?" And I was like, "Me?" He goes, "Yeah, you." So, that led to a great thing. But I want to start first with some ideas about how you can get started without raising money, and then I'll back into my story. It's interesting, the company that I built and sold, I actually have never raised money. As an angel investor today, investing in companies, I myself never went out and actually raised money. So if you're planning on starting your business or you're already in the early stages, I would highly encourage you to think about a few things. One is, as I'm sure as they teach here with Dr. Anne-Marie Scheit and the Lean Startup course, is to be able to put out a minimal viable product, an MVP. Everyone comes to me, and just so you know, I get about 300 to 400 pitches per year in the last 2 or 3 years. And of those 500 to 600 pitches, I've made locally 3 or 4 investments. So the ratios, obviously, are in line standard with venture capital, about 1%. But when you come with grandiose plans about building and you need money for that, I want to see traction. I want to see something that's viable. So if you have an idea and you want to put it into work, and I get it, I mean, I'm not a scientist, so if you need FDA approval, if you're creating a new alternative to an allergy shot, and you have to go through clinicals and test animals, that's not my world, and I get that there are some requirements that you can't sidestep, and you must go ahead and raise some capital. But if you're a digital marketing guy or a killer salesman like myself, you can go out with a minimal viable product, get some traction in the marketplace, and turn that into boatloads of money. In the introduction, you mentioned, I'm an admitted domain name addict, so I buy and sell domain names. One of them is Bagel of the Month Club. I grew up here in Long Island, worked at Bagel Boss as a kid. I said to the owner, Adam, there's a Fruit of the Month Club, there's a Cigar of the Month Club, how come there's no Bagel of the Month Club? He goes, "Oh, do what you want." So I bought the domain name, optimized it, and now we're shipping thousands of dozens of bagels from Hewlett, New York, all across the country. So how did I do that? Did I go out and buy a mixer, an oven, a space? No. I said to Adam, if I get orders and I forward them to you, will you fulfill them? So I was in the bagel business with zero capital. I know today if he wants to build a store, it's $300,000 to $500,000 easily to start a store. So if you can find out how you could either ride the coattails of a strategic partner, possibly look to give up equity for great resources or services from someone, I would encourage you to explore that route. Not to give away the whole company or try to keep as much as you want, but don't be greedy. And something else Dan had said, you need to admit that you know what you don't know. And I'm the first one to tell you, I'm not into numbers, I'm not into figuring out all these forecasts and all that other good stuff, but I surround myself with bright people or a great team that can handle that for me. My accountant, who I started with in 1997, 98, is still the accountant I use today. Because when he came in every 2 weeks, he'd say, "Andrew, you need to generate, $40,000. I go, "Jim, are you kidding me?" He's like, "Well, you're doing 30 now." I go, "I am?" He goes, "Yeah, look at, I manage my own QuickBooks. You do everything when you start your company." I sold, I did the work, I started by myself and grew it to 76 people. So if you do everything on the front lines and you know all aspects of your business, then the execution is half the battle. So I would encourage you to either create an advisory board. It doesn't even have to cost you money. You'd be pleasantly surprised how well-to-do, successful people will actually help you. I was contacted by a woman in LA that had a startup for a cupcake company. I gave her some feedback. I didn't ultimately invest, but I was impressed. She was in Ralph's supermarkets out there. She was doing $80,000 from a home her first year. And then I was out in LA a year ago this time for holiday, and on Twitter I threw up a picture of me on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And she emails me, she goes, "Andrew, are you in LA? You're 20 minutes from my house. You must come meet me." So my wife and 3 kids, my kid's like, "I thought you're not supposed to go meet people over the internet that you contact." I said, "It's okay. Mom's here. I've spoken to this woman. Nothing bad's going to happen." But, who would have thought that if she sent me a tweet that I would have responded, and I drove 20 miles from LA to her office, met her, and gave her some insight. So don't be afraid to reach out to people. I literally get an average of maybe 2 or 3 requests a day through LinkedIn, email, whatever. I'm not going to lie, I don't get back to every single person. I try to avoid the crazies, but I do get back to a lot of people. And you will find that if you reach out, people will connect with you. You know, by training, I'm actually an attorney. So I practiced law for about 10 weeks. Went to law school, got my degree, I was doing mortgage foreclosures for a firm here in Long Island, and I went to court every day in a suit and tie, which is why I don't wear ties anymore, and I threw people out of the houses. And I get it, we represented the banks, we had a job to do, but I hated it. So you really have to follow what your passion is, and I'm assuming that you're taking time out of your busy day to sit here and learn, that you're already on the right path to taking in some education. But I hated what I was doing, and I'm not a techie, I can't program, I don't know Python from Ruby on Rails to CGI. I know the buzzwords, but I don't know, technology as most people think I know. But I know how to do marketing, and I know how to network. So when I left, at the perfect timing, when I just bought our first house and were pregnant with our first kid, I said to my family, I'm going to stop practicing law and start a startup. My parents are like, we have no son. My in-laws are, is the internet going to be around in 3 years? Do you think this will really work? And I said, listen, worst case scenario, I fail, and I'll go back to practicing law, right? So there I was in 1998, making $24,000 a year as an associate attorney on Long Island. My wife, who's a teacher, had a better paying job than I did, and benefits, so I never had to worry about health benefits. And I started Prime Visibility in the end of 98, beginning of 99. I actually started at Briarcliff Incubator. There was an incubator at Briarcliff College in Bethpage. Started there by myself and really started to grow the business. Some of the key things, now again, you got to be able to pivot or iterate. And I know some of you in the room that I know have done that with your businesses. When you hit a roadblock or you come across something that just isn't working, you got to be man enough or woman enough to say, this isn't right, let me pivot and let me change. So I first started for 2 weeks as libusiness.com. My goal was to put every business on Long Island on the internet. And when I went around talking to business owners, I told them I can build them a great website. Now this is really 1998, 99, Microsoft front page, no SEO, no Google. And I told them I can build them a website and they can get them found. Alta Vista, Lycos, Hotbot, Dogpile, those were the search engines back then. Because when I was in law school, I taught myself, self-taught, I won't go into that, but my first business was called LazyStudents.com, and I basically, as a law student, generated $200,000 a year doing research for other kids. Actually, I didn't do the research. I had librarians do it, and I gave them 20% of whatever I collected. So I realized that if I had the opportunity to be involved with the internet, that's what I wanted to do. So I started this company, and as people were telling me, yeah, everyone can build a website, but you can really get me on the first page of the search engines? So I said, yeah. So with my advisory board, they said, your name doesn't really describe, libusiness.com doesn't really explain the visibility that you're getting for people. So within 2 weeks, I wasn't a know-it-all. I said, okay, we're smarter people, some gray hair, I trust what you're telling me, and I changed the name to Prime Visibility. And then we landed 2 major clients. We got Torno, the world's largest watch retailer, and Lauren Hutton, the famous model with the space in her teeth, who actually launched a makeup line in 2000, and without any brick-and-mortar locations, we got her to over $10 million of revenue in a year, just through online sales. Because you type in makeup or makeup remover, she was #1. You type in use Rolex or Tag Heuer or Movado, Torno was #1. So I had immediate credibility. I'm always looking for niche businesses or niche opportunities. I hate the me too. I do this, I do that, like everyone else does. So when I started pitching the SEO, the search engine optimization, people were fascinated. Now, I also didn't do very well in school. I actually failed out of Oneonta twice. Graduated from Oswego, still made it out in 4 years. Went to law school in Michigan, did that in 2.5 years versus 3 years because I was so excited about the internet, but I hated school, I just wanted to make money and have fun. So when I basically went out and said, you know what, I need to be a thought leader, so I'm going to write a book. And my wife's like, you're going to write a book? Mr. 0.76 GPA, you're going to write a book? Sure enough, I wrote a book on search engine optimization. And then 2 weeks later, I was featured on Fox Business Television with me and my book talking about how the market was falling apart, but companies were using search to grow their business. And then I landed in a meeting with the Trump Organization. So there I am with Eric Trump in the conference room when they first started the Celebrity Apprentice firings. And Eric's like, you're a really smart guy. It's like, you really know what you're doing. And the person I was with is like, Eric, not only does he know what he's doing, but he wrote the book on SEO. And I literally self-published the book. It wasn't like Penguin or Random House. So he goes, no way. I reached into my bag. I pulled out my 90-page paperback book with my picture on the cover. And as mentioned, we made the Inc. list as fastest growing company. So we had the Inc. 500 logo on there. And I handed Eric Trump my book that I wrote about search engine optimization. 2 weeks later, the Trump Organization hired us. Then CIT hired us. Then International Tool hired us. Then Henry Schein hired us. And the list goes on, and we built a great company. So I go to Newsday, November 2006, working close to my home, which is always a great idea. My wife's giving me, some, you're not coming to Spencer's soccer game, how are you going to miss this? You haven't been to one game this year yet, and they're not paying you to speak tonight. And I went to Newsday, Pine Lawn Auditorium, about 110 people, and I did my spiel on internet marketing, and I taught people. People thought I was crazy. They're like, you're going to tell people what you do? I said, yeah, go figure it out. Knowing it and hearing it is one thing, executing is something else. So I gave the speech as I told you, and someone came to the room and said, do you want to sell your company? I was totally flabbergasted, and he said, I'm going to bring you to a meeting in 2 weeks. We went to the city, actually one of the Trump Towers at a residential, some big shot managing partner of American Capital was there, and she said to me, what's your pitch? And I literally looked at her like, what the F are you talking about? I hate sports. I'm like, they asked me about baseball. I have no idea about pitches. And Steve said, no, Andrew, tell her what you do. And then I said, oh. And I went, onto I go, do you use the internet? She said, yes. And I did a couple of searches, and I go, use mattresses. Sleepy's #1, our client. Medical devices, Henry Schein, #2, our client. Breaking news, Fox News, #2, our client. She goes, stop. How much money are you guys looking for? And I will tell you, back then, they were looking to raise about $20, $25 million because they were buying my company and they were buying an ad network in Arizona. And they told me, which I couldn't believe, this is too small of a deal. They said it's the same paperwork to do a $200 million deal as it is to do a $20 million deal, and they weren't interested in doing a $20 million deal. So she said, come back to us when you're bigger. So I was like, what the hell? She was so impressed, great company, but she's not interested. Then they took me to someone else and says, what's your, how's your EBITDA? Again, blank stare. EBITDA? What is that? So he goes, do you have a mortgage? And I said, yes. And he showed me about equity. And so I got a crash course very quickly on margin and EBITDA and forecasting because I was all about sales. I would sell you SEO. Can you pay me $10,000 a month? Client. $8,000 a month? Client. What's my cost? I have no idea. I have a payroll. If everyone gets paid and there's money for me, I'm happy. But I just went out and built sales. So I got the company to about $12 to $15 million in revenue. This guy, local guy, who was former president of NBC Universal, who found me that night at Newsday, wanted to be a mensch about this, and we went out and had a third party evaluate the company. I'll never forget it, it was April 12th of, anniversary just passed in probably 06 or 07. He had Empire Valuation in Manhattan do the valuation. He paid the $15,000 to have the company evaluated. And he emails me the PDF, and he's like, I just got it, because we were waiting months and months to get it. So I was praying to God the company was worth $4 to $6 million, which I thought would have been a home run. So Steve forwards me the PDF document, I get it, I open it, it says 1 of 44 pages. I go, what page? He goes, 12. Next. And then I see $12.5 million valuation. So Steve's like, what do you think? Now my heart beating out of my chest. He said, well, I thought it'd be a little bit higher, but I think this is a good starting point. He goes, me too. He goes, he originally wanted to buy 10% of the company, and he says, let me go out and raise some money, and we'll buy the whole thing. So I wound up, by the time I had to sign a letter of intent, I was much smarter, circled in some of my attorney friends that represented me, and basically sold the company in December of 2007. When they acquired my business, I reinvested into the parent company, which bought mine and the ad network in Arizona. And then I ran my end of the business for 4 years until December of 2011, when a public company named Blinks out of Europe purchased the whole parent company for $36 million in cash. I got the money on Wednesday. Friday I walked in and said I'm done, and I resigned, right? Because I started to see I had to answer to people. I had revenue calls. I went to the bath. I think the real icing on the cake was one day I was walking to the men's room at our office in Melville, and I saw my graphic designer working on our logo. I said, Dennis, what are you doing? He's like, oh, the guys in Chicago want to see some new logo options. I said, the guys in Chicago? Like, this is my baby. Now they want to start changing things. So I knew in a nanosecond that when I got that second bite of the apple, I was out of there. So I left in December of 2011. I thought I'd be semi-retired, having 3 young boys. I started driving carpools and going pick up here and going there. I said, it's easier to run a company than deal with these 3 kids. So I became health counsel to a law firm here in Long Island, Ruskin, Moscow, Foltashek. And then I got to the suit and tie every day, right? So I went to like 3 meetings, and one day I opened the door and I caught my reflection in the mirror and I said, who is that guy? That's not me. So while I'm still of counsel and very close with the firm, I decided that I wanted to live the dream of investing in companies, nurturing them, and opening up my Rolodex to help them grow, which is why we created Launchpad in January of 2013. In less than 2.5 years, we have 4 locations and 3 in the works. 12,000 square feet in Huntington, 8,700 square feet in 12,000 square feet in Mineola, 8,700 square feet in Huntington, 10,000 square feet in Great Neck, and here at Stony Brook as well, we have a presence. Just some takeaway in the interest of time, you know, some of the things, and I mentioned some of these already, but find a niche. You know, now, as mentioned, we have the biggest custom bobblehead, so I can make one Larry bobblehead, one Dan bobblehead, and we make over 35,000 custom individual bobbleheads a year, plus the giveaways at the games and the stadiums. But I found the niche, went over to China, found some factories, trying to bring manufacturing here to Long Island with 3D printing and figure that out. But, you know, looking for niche opportunities. Process and procedures. When they had the due diligence, and they brought in McGlatchery and some overpriced firm to come in and look through our company, they said, where's your manual? Like, how do you guys do what you do, this optimization stuff? I said, it's all up here. That's the last thing they wanted to hear. Because I get hit by a bus, company's over. So within 48 hours without sleeping, I put together process documents and manuals, and I said, oh, no, if I get hit by a bus, they just follow this.